Hi. Lately, most likely you saw many articles about VR because the new Oculus headsets are out and Valve Index is coming out very soon. PSVR games are better than ever, but maybe you're still not sure if you should buy a headset, if you should spend all that money, if it's just a gimmick. Well, in this video I will try to explain why it's not just a gimmick and why you definitely should buy one. Let's go. I've talked about this a little in my very first video, but I think this topic deserves its own video. Let's start off with maybe the most important thing. If you have never tried VR, never played a VR game, or maybe just quickly tested VR at some convention or something where your headset most likely wasn't set up right, it's very important to know that whenever you watch a video about a VR game or screenshots, it's never even close to what it really feels like when you actually have the headset on and play. You can't compare that at all. I mean, if you watch a video of a normal game that you would play on a monitor, you get a really great idea of how it is. It's basically the same thing, just, you know, it's not you playing but another person. But with this, it's just, let's maybe compare it to if you're watching a video about someone driving a car, or if you're actually driving a car yourself. That's almost how big this difference is. So always keep that in mind when you watch a video about a VR game. What's interesting because of this is when you remember playing a VR game that you really liked, it's not like remembering just playing a game, it's more like remembering doing something awesome, you know, experiencing something cool, being somewhere completely different. It's not just, oh yeah, that game was cool. It was, wow, what I did back then was cool, if that makes any sense at all. It's just because you're really in another place, at least in your brain, the experience feels completely different. What's also important because of this, when you're in a VR game and you feel like you're really there, the graphics don't matter that much. Even a game that's very simplistic like Orbus VR, the first VR MMO, it's very stylized, very simplistic. It honestly doesn't look very good when you watch a video of it. But when you're in that world with your headset on, it's just a completely different thing. So don't judge VR games too much by graphics that you see in videos, because when you're in that world, then it doesn't matter how realistic or how stylized it is, you feel like you're there. And it just doesn't matter that much. If you're worried that in VR you don't have big gaming experiences, that there are only, you know, those small experiences, like they're called, that last half an hour, that's not true anymore either. More and more bigger games are coming out, like Blood and Truth on the PlayStation VR, Journey of the Gods on the Quest, and on and on. And even games that were not originally made for VR, like Skyrim or Fallout 4, are in VR. More and more developers try this platform out, and with the support of especially PlayStation and Oculus, and hopefully soon Valve with their new Valve Index headset, more and more developers spend a lot of time creating really great gaming experiences. I just think Valve promised that they are actually working on 3 full games for the Valve Index for Steam VR, and you know, I'm really excited about that, and I think you should be too. So don't worry about the games. Yes, they're not that well known because normal gaming outlets or gaming sites, magazines don't report too much about VR, but that changes too slowly. But just because you don't know a game that's out in VR and that's great, doesn't mean it isn't good. So you should really give that a chance. Blood and Truth VR just recently got quite a lot of attention from mainstream stream gaming sites, and I will put a link or two of reviews of it in the description. Check it out. Depending on how old you are, you have some gaming system that you started out with and played for the first time. And I'm sure you remember how magical it felt back then playing those games, even if they were just maybe 8-bit or 16-bit. And maybe you have the same problem that I had, where modern games, no matter how good they look, no matter how great the stories are, you just can't get into that anymore. And maybe you think that you're just maybe too old, or you just grew out of it, or the games are just not that good anymore. I had that problem until 2016, when I got my first VR headset. And I tell you, being in those virtual worlds, playing those games is just as magical as back then when I was 9 years old with my C64. It's just a completely new experience, and I thought I would never experience that again in video gaming, and I did, and I still do. It's still magical to be in some VR game, and you should definitely try it and not miss out. So yeah, VR is definitely not just a gimmick. It's slowly building a bigger and bigger customer base, especially PlayStation VR. Now with the Oculus Quest, which is standalone and really attractive to a lot of people who maybe don't have a PlayStation or don't have a good PC, it will just get bigger over time. And it would be a shame if you would be missing out just because you're not sure if it's really something that you would enjoy for a longer time. And I can promise you, if you're just slightly interested in video games, VR is not just a gimmick that you try out for a few days and then, throw it in a corner and never touch it again. If you try out a few games and find one that you like, you will come back to it over and over, and you will find more and more great stuff on Steam VR or Oculus Store or PlayStation, whichever system you're going for. Just really, take the leap, bite the bullet, spend that money, and I'm very confident that you will not regret it. By the way, if you're interested in gaming history in general and VR history, then I can highly recommend the book The History of the Future by Blake J. Harris. I just recently finished it and I just couldn't put it down. It was such an amazing book. You get the whole story of Oculus with the beginning of Barmalaki in his trailer up until where Facebook bought them and beyond. And it's just such an interesting story. You also get some background information about VR in the 90s and so on. It's really highly recommended. If you want to get it, there's a affiliate Amazon link in the description. It helps me out a little bit, and you won't have to pay a cent more if you use that link. And yeah, I can just really recommend it. Alright, that's it for this video. Please like, please subscribe, it really helps me, and I hope I see you next time. See ya, bye.